2024 NFL Draft has officially come and gone. And today I'm going to be breaking down the Steelers players, coaches, whatever, that benefited the most and least from the Steelers 2024 NFL Draft class. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already to help support the channel. And if you loved what Omar Khan did with this year's draft class, yet again, you're giving this draft class an easy A grade like I am, make sure you click that thumbs up icon and show your love to the Khan artist. So first up here, let's go over the winners for this year's draft class. And I do think that the number one winner in terms of the coaching staff, okay, we could say Mike Tomlin, that's the easy answer there. But I think Arthur Smith has got to be stoked with what Omar Khan gave him, and especially in terms of the bodies up front. I mean, you get Troy Fautano, one of your starting tackles next year, in my opinion. I think he's going to play left tackle with Broderick on the right. But honestly, I trust Mike Tomlin and Artie to make the right choice there as to where they put these guys. I think because Fautano's a better pass protector right now, I think it makes more sense to put him on the left side. But like I said, guys, mix or match, whatever you think is better. If you think Broderick's better on the left side, whatever, I don't really care. But then also, you add Zach Frazier as your new starting center with his toughness and tenacity and his wrestling background and all the stuff that we love about him. And then we got Mason McCormick, really a road grader type guard who's probably not going to start right away, but he's going to be potentially a future starter down the road, and he's going to provide some really awesome depth along the offensive line. Plus, you pick up Roman Wilson, a really good wide receiver that he's going to be able to utilize. Arthur Smith said he plans on using Roman both on the outside and on the inside. You could really tell that he loved Roman Wilson's game. And speaking of our Wilsons here, let's talk about Russell Wilson, the guy that's going to be throwing Roman Wilson his passes in 2024. And listen, man, Roman Wilson, he's a deep threat. He's great on those deep crossing routes that we know Arthur Smith loves to run. And I think Russell Wilson is really good at throwing those deep balls. And I think that he's somebody that's really going to be able to get the ball to Russell Wilson. He's going to have Roman Wilson, I should say. He's going to have a really good offensive line in front of him. And I can't wait to see the Wilson to Wilson connection here in Pittsburgh, because Roman Wilson, man, great deep threat, really good route runner, really solid hands. I mean, I know that the Pickens connection with Russell Wilson is going to be absolutely fire, but I know that the Roman Wilson one is going to be fantastic as well. I know Wilson is going to be a rookie here and all these different things, and Mike Tomlin doesn't like to play rookies, blah, 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 blah. He's going to get on the field very early, and he's going to be very productive with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball. And now you're in a position here, if you're Russ, you got a great run game, you got a great defense, you got a great head coach. Now you have one of the best offensive lines in football, or at least you hope it is. And now you're pretty much just one piece away from really giving Russell Wilson everything that he needs at the wide receiver position. I think they could still go out and make a big move for a wide receiver. I go over the biggest names and the biggest wide receiver targets on the market today, both in free agency and that could potentially get traded. I did a video on that earlier this week, so I'll put the link to that video in the comments and description of today's show so you guys can check that out. Now, get in the comments and let me know which wide receiver should the Pittsburgh Steelers add to the offense this offseason to pair with Russell Wilson, George Pickens, and, of course, Roman Wilson. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time, but let me know which wide receiver you want to see in black and gold next year. Third winner, Damontae Kazee. I think that with them not getting a slot corner or any corner for that matter, it's looking more and more like Kazee is going to be a part of the rotation among the starters once again. Now, of course, last year he was a part of this rotation with Keanu Neal, and Neal was hurt for most of the season, so Kazee was a full-time starter when he was healthy. But towards the end of the season, guys, I thought he played really slow. I thought he lost his legs, and I even considered, and I actually put him forth as a cut candidate this offseason because I'm just not sure if he still has the juice. Hopefully I'm wrong. Kazee's a great locker room presence. I think he's a good guy as well, and with the Steelers not getting really anybody that's going to challenge for a starting spot, at least in week one, it's looking like Kazee could definitely be a part of the starting rotation for the Steelers heading into 2024. Then, speaking of the secondary here, Cory Trice Jr., another beneficiary of the Steelers not going out and getting a cornerback. I mean, yeah, you got Dante Jackson and you've got Joey Porter Jr. on the outside, and, Cory Trice Jr. is not going to play in the slot. He's too big. But maybe Mike Tomlin considers moving Donte Jackson into the slot. He is smaller, he's shifty, he's physical. He kind of fits what Mike Tomlin would love in a slot corner. And then if Cory Trice has a really good training camp and he really shows off the speed and the strength and the length and all these different things that he's coming to the table with, is it really all that crazy to think that Joey Porter Jr. and Donte Jackson will be your two corners in your base formations? And then when you go to your nickel and your dime sets, Cory Trice Jr. comes on as kind of an outside corner and they kick Donte back inside. I certainly think that's something that could be possible as a possibility for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think Cory Trice Jr. is set up now where if he has a good training camp and a good preseason, he might be able to earn himself a starting spot on the Steelers defense. So coming up next year, post-draft losers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a longer list here, obviously because there's a new crop of rookies coming in and there's people that are losing positions, losing certain standings in certain rooms. So we'll get to that here in just a second. But first, if you believe in Justin Fields and you think he is the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you can get his jersey officially licensed for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2 is going to be his jersey number here in Pittsburgh. You can get it today at chatsports.com/Fields and make an investment here if you think Justin is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler for a very long time. I'm certainly rooting for the kid. If Russell Wilson doesn't play well, I certainly think he's a great backup option, but it's looking like he's just going to be on a 1-year contract here. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for him in his Pittsburgh Steeler career here. There's rumors that they might sign him to an extension. So if that's the case, it looks like he might be sticking around here. So get his jersey today at chatsports.com/Fields. I'll put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show so you can let Fanatics know that we sent you. Okay, now, losers. Dan Moore Jr. is a pretty obvious one here. First-round pick, once again, a left tackle that is brought in to replace you. Now, Dan Moore was able to hold on to his spot at left tackle last year because Chukwuma Okorafor lost his job at right tackle, of course, ushering in Broderick Jones on the right side. But with Fautanu, who I think is more ready to play right away than Broderick was last year, I just don't think that there's any way Moore should start week 1. Now, I know there's rumblings out there from like Jerry Dulac and other people that the Steelers plan to start him at left tackle week 1. I just think that Fautano's too good. And I think that, when you line these two guys up in camp, it's just not going to even be close. Now, Moore is definitely a good backup swing option for you if you start Fautano and Jones. And I think that it really gives some nice depth at this position. And he could be a nice bargaining chip as well. But for somebody that went into draft weekend as a bona fide starter for this team and left it not in that status, it's definitely not a great week for Dan Moore Jr. Then James Daniels, somebody that I'm a big fan of, and I think that is a really good player. Still only 26 years old, by the way. He's been one of the best and highly graded offensive linemen on the Steelers the last 2 years. He's been a bright spot and some pretty spotty offensive line work here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he's an unrestricted free agent in 2025, and especially going out and getting a guard in Mason McCormick in the 4th round, somebody that I think could start in the NFL pretty quickly. I think that tells you that that's probably the long-term plan for the Steelers. They don't want to spend big money on a guy like James Daniels at this position. They want to stay young. They want to stay relatively inexpensive. And if James Daniels has another great season, he's going to get the bag somewhere, and I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers want to be the team to give it to him. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers lock up James Daniels at right guard for the long term? Give me a yes or give me a no down there in the comments section to give me your thoughts on James Daniels. Now let's get into Larry Ogunjobi, the 5 technique here. And, I like Larry O. He's a decent player. Not a star, not a superstar, not really even close. And they're paying him a pretty decent chunk of change. And, he's going to be a free agent next year as well. So you get Logan Lee in the 6th round, somebody that I'm kind of a fan of. I think it was a really good pick for that value. And listen, man, the 5 technique just isn't on the field as much, especially with Keanu Benton kind of assuming a larger role within this system. So the 5 technique, the 3-4 defensive end, whatever you guys want to call it, is just not going to have that big of a role anymore in this defense. So Larry O, he's got one more season. I expect him to play well, and I wish him the best of luck elsewhere, but this is probably his final season here in Pittsburgh as he is a free agent next year. Then Cole Holcomb. I mean, listen, man, you get a guy in Peyton Wilson who is a really good player. I think that if he stays healthy, he's going to be a future 3-down starter type at the position in this league. And you have Patrick Queen being brought in, Landon Roberts is still good. I mean, right now, it's not a good sign that Cole Holcomb is fully healthy. And even if he is, I mean, what's his long-term future here with the Pittsburgh Steelers? I guess we're going to find out. I'm rooting for him. He's a good guy. The golden mullet, the mullet in the middle, whatever you guys want to call him. I really am wishing him the best because he is a pretty decent player. Had a pretty decent year last year before that really gruesome leg injury. So hopefully he can be a Pittsburgh Steeler here and a good one for at least the next year or so. But I guess we'll have to see given the status of him here in this room. Then we got Nate Herbig. And listen, this might be the biggest loser of them all here besides maybe Dan Moore. Nate Herbig went into the weekend as the starting center option, or the person that was stated by Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin as the starting center option. They said that they were good with him going into the season as their center. And by the end of the weekend, he wasn't even just the backup interior offensive lineman center. I mean, Mason McCormick took that role. So he's not only just the starting center, he's not even the first backup on the interior. So that is a huge decline for Mr. Nate Herbig. And, Herbig's great in the locker room, super bubbly personality, great smile, all these different things. I do think McCormick is better than him, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I think he's going to take that role as like the depth piece on the interior. So Herbig's going to need two of the interior offensive linemen to even see the field. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers end up cutting him and try to give him an opportunity elsewhere. So now, for more content from me, Steelers content, every single day, you can check me out at Jack_Sperry on X or at SpareDog.football on Instagram. I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. And until next time, here we go, Steelers. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate your guys' support. And this time for real, here we go, Steelers.